So right now, I'm looking at a way to suspend this inside this hole here. And as you can see, if I go so high, it's a little bit above this right here. So I can either have the choice of setting it at an angle, or I can have it go above that. And I'm thinking what I'm going to do is not put it at an angle, because I have this. As you can see, I just cut out some cardboard from a spray nozzle. I can stick this nice and neat in here, and it stays into place and functions pretty well. But I'd have to set it, the float switches, at an angle. So what I think I'm going to do is use this. As you can see, that goes up against there really nicely, but it'll be at an angle. I'll just cut a little bit off here, but have some extensions going down into this, holding it into place. So let's work with that and see what we get. I think this will be the prototype conclusion. So as you can see, it's at an angle. It's still mounted flat though, if you can see that. And I think there's enough play in there when it's converted into aluminum to be able to slip in and out. And this valve will go in here. Now, what I plan to do, I'm going to make this hole a little bigger. This is just a hole puncher hole. I think I will put some material, some piping around this, and then insert it into the hole so it holds into place nicely, but at the same time it's not, I guess, extremely tight. So it'll be holding itself into place more or less with a tube connected to here. It'll be a lot more stable than that, but it'll still be loose enough to have a little bit of play. And you'll have your dripper hose connected to here, and the circuit board will be over here with the terminals on this side. If you notice, these markings over here and over here will be my plate where I can use screws on the board. Just find a place for a screw. Probably one screw may work. I'll have to fiddle with that to see what works best. And the wires, I'll probably tie up the wires into a loop there, so I don't have to cut off all that nice excess, and make sure it works for a decent period of time, and just evaluate it as it goes. So it's time to make the aluminum plate now. So here we have the paper prototype, or the cardboard prototype. Here we have the aluminum cut. I decided to keep this little piece here and drill 2 little holes for the board. As you can see, have the screws in place. So we are about to test this. Just screw it in and mount everything. I might make that hole bigger, like I said, so I can stick this little tube over that and it can have some play. So let's see what happens. And here's the circuit on a breadboard. Pay no mind to that over there. We'll get to that later. But here's the circuit. As you can see, the drain is connected up to this relay. This is just a relay from a microwave to simulate the valve. Connected up to the positive. Of course, the positive is connected to 12 volts over there. And we got our ground, which is in common with our switches. So if we get low, if the water level gets low, can't see with this camera in my face. There we go. The relay enables, the relay disables. Enables, disables. And here we have the valve itself. You can hear it enable. We can hear it disable. So when the water level gets low, this will enable. And then when the water level gets high, this will enable. And if these are shorted up against each other, that's alright. It will not automatically turn on at all. Now this guy over here on this side is a little different. As you can see, it just uses a capacitor across the gate and the drain, the gate and the source, which just holds the charge. And here's the circuit of that right over here. As you can see, if the high switch and the low switch shorted together, you'd have a nice 10K resistor there to prevent any problems from going on. And of course, the valve's hooked up to the drain. So once you hit the low, it's charged up with 12 volts, and so is that capacitor. And because there's no real leakage current on the FET, it will stay charged until the high switch brings the gate and the capacitor low, and disabling the valve. So that works too. A lot simpler, as you can see, but it uses a capacitor. But since it's not electrolytic, it should probably last, I would think, a while in the greenhouse. So I'll experiment with that later. Here is the general concept at work. As you can see, the capacitor is across the gate and the source. We charge it up, and there would be a resistor here, just so you know, a resistor from on this side to the switch part itself. Normally, we charge it up, it's on, and it stays on until it's discharged. And here again, the reason for the resistor here is so in case both switches are active at once, it won't short straight from power to ground. A 10K resistor should be fine. And yes, here's the diagram again. So that's simple enough with a capacitor, a resistor, and a FET. Charge it and discharge it. Charge it and discharge it. On and off, on and off. Versus an transistor, a FET, 3 resistors, and 2 diodes to protect everything. It's a lot simpler. And here is the PCB prototype. I just used some strip board. I did not even have to cut any of the traces there. And of course, some screws with some standoffs, well, spacers, and insulation right there. And everything is labeled. The valve and the positive, those will be connected together. And then of course the ground, which interacts with each of the high and the low. And then of course positive and ground being the power supply also. And put some components back there as well. Don't think you can see them though. Well, I put a diode back there. So let's see how it works out. I made 2 of these. The other one doesn't look all that good, but it is smaller. I just wanted a little bit more leeway, a little bit more space on the board to have more secure holes there for the screws. There's that diode in the back. Alright, so a lot different design, as you can see. Of course, this is not really protected as of yet. It's just a prototype. You get a lot bigger valve that sucks about an amp, but it does the job, that's for sure. So apparently, that other valve was not at all rated for the pressures or working at the pressures it was supposedly rated at, unsurprisingly, and then to discover that the same size and shape were actually for a Keurig coffee maker. So that explained a lot. Nevertheless, this seems to be pretty strong and stable, but I'm going to try it out and see how it works. I expect it will work well. However, unfortunately, my siphoning hose I don't think is going to be long enough for that other box over there. The siphoning hose did work, though. I will say that. At least for the kohlrabi. I don't think it's going to work for this. Too far apart. Alright, let's try it out. Alright, so far so good. It's filling up a lot quicker than it did before. So let's see if it stops just fine. I'll monitor that. It did indeed stop right on. And no pour out either. Awesome! Awesome! I just need another one now. The tomatoes are watered.